So I'm gonna play two different songs together that I don't really know that well. One of them I don't think I've ever put into a mix or like properly mixed together. And then the second song is Aurora Drift by Diode Ains. I'll put the names in the description. But I'm just gonna kind of go through how I would start to think about mixing these together, and kind of the process of like how to play around with it and just kind of start having fun with DJing. So on the left hand side, I've got Azure by Camilo Sankel Mentor. And all I've done is I've put a hot cue at the start of each song. They're very simple in terms of like they both start with kicks straight away and like not a full percussion set, but quite a a considerable amount, like a kick. So let's kind of listen to each and try and identify what's playing at the start. So it's basically just the kick, the kind of like shuffle, and like a clave or like a wood piece of percussion that's kind of just keeping the rhythm. And then so that was Aurora Drift, and then we're going to listen to Azure now. There's more in the song on the left. There's the bass. So there's the kick on every beat of the bar. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. And then there's a bass going dun 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 dun. So it's already more than Aurora Drift, and depending on where if these two songs were in a mix, it would really depend on which song is the primary song and which one is the secondary song. And when I say primary and secondary, I mean the dominant song in the mix, and the kind of reciprocal song in the mix. So as we're DJing, most of the time there will always be a dominant song, and kind of by that I mean most of the elements of what's currently playing are from one song. So if we start off with the right one, so Aurora Drift, which has less in it, then I would probably want to think about how can I add to that a little bit and make up for the lower energy of the song. Whereas if Azure is playing first, it's quite natural to just kind of let this play, but maybe having like a tiny bit of a secondary song, just to give it a bit more energy. So kind of what I think of that is what is currently here. There's a low end and a high end, and there's very little in the mid end. Whereas this one, so if I isolate just the mids, you can kind of hear, obviously there's the shuffle, but there's also kind of like a little bit of melody in the background. But probably there's nothing really in this bit that I kind of want to merge with the song on the left. So I would probably try and find a different part of the song on the right, just to fill in for the lack of mids in Azure. So heavy bass, heavy kick, and like a high end that kind of like is quite prominent, and then but not much mid. So like not much melody, not much kind of like standard instruments. So what I'm kind of thinking is where in this song might there be some more mid-end stuff that might sound good with what's currently going on the right. So I've got a quick way of going between like start and end of the song. So that's the start, that's the end, and I can just shuffle it quite quickly. So whatever your controller uses, but I'm going to go to the first bit that kind of like has any mid end, and that is kind of that's 32 bars in. So the 33rd bar, I'm just going to put a hot cue. So this first hot cue that I've put in doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound like the first beat of the bar. So I'm kind of going to go back a bar and play it and put a hot cue down when I feel like it is the right point. So yeah, it was the beat after what I did. So let's just do that again. 2, 1. So yeah, it's that next beat after that is actually the first beat of the bar. So what I'll do is I'll create a loop, and then on mine I can kind of like create a loop backwards. So I've gone back because I want to bring in this secondary song, or like some of the elements from the secondary song, so that it aligns with the first. So what I care about is that transition. So we'll kind of listen to it in full, or like we'll have two, I think this is 8 bars loop just before that hot cue. So that kind of crescendo, I kind of want to align with another crescendo or a corresponding crescendo from the first song. So it's kind of 2 ways of doing that. I could either time it and kind of intuitively try and match it. So waiting for, so if we play the left song for a bit, and if I take out the mid just to leave some space so that the right song can kind of sound okay. So a bit of mid-end starts. I haven't brought in any of the new song yet. Just listening to it on the left, you can hear the mid-end building here. We'll leave some of it in just so it doesn't sound unnatural. And then you'll hear on the right-hand side, as I start to bring up the volume, I make it a bit louder than I usually would, just so you can hear it a bit more clearly. But you see how this crescendo on the one on the right seems to be aligning with what's happening on the left. So quite a natural alignment. And all I did for that is created a 9 bar loop and made it, or 8 bar loop, sorry, and I made it correspond with the 8 bar loop on the other one. So just, I'd say DJing, if you can count, it makes things a lot easier. So for example, if I start counting now, 1 2 3 4 2 2 3 4 3 2 3 4 4 2 3 4 5 2 3 4 6 2 3 4 7 2 3 4 8 2 3 4 9. So when it completes an 8 bar loop, when we complete an 8 bar loop, that's the sort of ballpark area that you should aim to mix at, or at least create an alignment. So finding an 8 bar section of the left song and then an 8 bar section of the right. And I knew that on the right, at the end of that 8 bar loop, that was when that was where the transition was. So I just timed that and unlooped as that came in. I'll show a different way of doing exactly the same thing, and that is just by I've got most of the left. I'll start with the left in terms of like the volume levels on the left and the right, are at maximum, minimum, and I'm gonna bring it in. I've got it. So I said that these hot cues, the red ones, I usually always put at the start of a song. just in case I want to go back to that point, but then I'll start kind of looking at other ones. I'm just going to rearrange my hot cues just because I like to have them a similar process for each song. So red, or like the first one is the very start of the song, and then it goes in chronological order throughout. So yeah, the second one would be, you know, the second transition or the second point in the song that I feel could be viable for mixing. So yeah, I'm just going to start off by playing both songs at the very start. The good part about that is it's very close to beat matched. It is off, so if I kind of... It sounds off. It's hard to tell. It's when it's quite far off, it's quite hard to tell whether it's ahead or behind. Actually, I'd say it's relatively hard to tell unless you really isolate the song on the right. So the only way to isolate the song, the volume's at minimum, is if I cue this and change it so that I'm looking at the cue. So on here it has master and cue. I want to listen to the cue and it's off. So what I would do is I'd usually start off my mix in this way, so how it is currently. You know, depending on what the song sounds like, I'll change the mid and the low and the high, but usually I always keep the mid either low or you know, not anywhere near to 12 o'clock. And that's to allow me some breathing room, just to kind of like increase the hype a little bit, and then also decrease it if I need to, if it works better that way, i.e. maybe if I'm bringing something on the right, maybe I want to build some tension, I don't know. So yeah, I'll start off like this. This is all the way to the bottom. This is all the way to the top. I've got it so that I'm listening more to the cued song than the original. You know, I'd say a lot of DJing is kind of management of this. So if I want to listen to what the audience is listening to, I have it on master. But I kind of want to sometimes change between these, because sometimes I want to hear this secondary song quite loud so that I can prepare it and make sure it's in time. But then I might want to hear what the audience is hearing for fine-tuning. So that's kind of like my methodology. I'm going to start again. I'm going to bring up the volume of the right song just so you can hear it. But actually I would have this on 0 and have it just so I could hear it, just so I can make sure that it's in time before I even start. So I'm not going to use loops for any of this. This is just going to be using hot cues. So, oh yeah, I'll put the volume up on this. So I'm going to not look at the visualizer on my laptop for this. I'm just going to do it by ear. So I knew that was out. I knew that was out of time. So it seems as though this hotkey on the right might be before the one on the left. Either that or I'm not very good at DJing, one of the two. So now I've kind of adjusted the hotkey on the left. Much better, much more in time. So that was a perfect start. What I mean by that is this song is slightly behind this song. Ever so slightly. It's really hard to tell, but it's just giving it that perspective of being in the background. Obviously, I'd have this song on either 0 or a bit higher if I knew that things were in time, and I could do that. But say we get it wrong, so this is salvageable. I knew when I did that, because I can listen. If we listen to, that's what this one sounds like. That's what this one sounds like. And we go. That was all right. That was fine. So that was also fine. Okay. The right one was ahead. So I need to decide once I press these. That was fine. This might be too far back, but Okay, that one was definitely too quick. So what I'd do is find the right point where it sounds in time. Obviously I've got this on 0, and then I could start bringing it in. What I'm doing is here, as I'm bringing this right one in, I'm trying to create a little bit of movement in the left song, which in isolation sounds bad, but if I'm bringing something else in, it kind of adds a second layer and makes it mesh a little bit easier. And this one sounded a bit ahead, the one on the right sounded a bit ahead, so I moved it back a little bit. Because it's better for this one to be slightly behind. So this sounds smooth. As you can see from the volume on the left and the volume on the right, this is the dominant song. I was saying earlier that having a primary song and a secondary song, or a dominant and a background song, is quite a useful concept because it allows so one of them kind of carries the energy of the song. So the one on the left is it's the drums, the bass, and a little bit of melody. Initially it was like this, and then the one on the right was providing the melody. But if you'll notice here, I'm bringing in the left while bringing out the right. DJing is all about trying to, you've got a water level that you need to keep balanced. And if we use just one song, so I've taken out this one on the right, that is a full cup of water. And this one is empty. So overall, we've got 1 cup of water. If we want to increase that, or if we want to add water to the second cup, we need to take some out of the first. So that overall, there's 1 cup's worth of water. That's kind of how I think about DJing, because you got to remember, often it's 2 things happening at the same time that makes something sound good. So I want to start bringing in this right song. I'm just going to increase the volume on the right. So if we think about it like this, I've taken out the mid of the left and put in the mid on the right. That's generally the principle. It's not as simple as that, but there's lots of ways of doing the same thing. So here, I did that. I moved both mids just so that visually it would seem symmetrical. But this is exactly the same. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new song to the mix. So one I've never listened to before, and I'm going to apply those principles. Or that, I've never mixed these 2 songs together. So generally, around this BPM, I feel like Duar probably has something simple that kind of fits in. If we know the lyrics or very few lyrics. What an idiot. So that's one thing you don't want to do while DJing. You don't want to accidentally load something onto the wrong track. not ideal. And now I've lost the other song. I can't remember what it was called. It had a really weird name. Anyway, that'll do for now.